Alright, are we up and running? Let's check my signal here real quick, see if we are active, and if we are, we can make this thing bounce. Alright, sounds like our volume's coming through. Sounds like we're live, and so yeah, we can make this thing bounce. So let me turn that volume down just a smidge. Don't want to mute it because then the bots think things are bad, but I definitely want to keep it open just in case anything weird comes up. So, hey, my name is Phil Kearney. I create role-playing games, I illustrate them, and then I publish online. And I've been focusing my attention on Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition for the past 7 years. And but I've been using Eberron as my homebrew campaign since it came out in 3rd edition. I blended it with Spelljammer and Planescape for decades at this point, and it's just such a great diverse setting. But I've never created any published adventures for Eberron, and I've never created any published adventures for 5th edition. Excuse me. So that's what we're in the process of doing here. We're making our first official published adventure in 5th edition for Eberron. So let's go ahead and put this forward. This book cover here that we're looking at, we created this back around episode 40, and it looks like we're at episode 250 right now. I've still got some sickness in me. I had pneumonia going through the household, and I'm still clearing out my gunk. So where am I? Oh yeah, like, subscribe, bell icon, get notifications when I'm live in the future. I am typically here 10 times per week. We're currently working on more maps for the adventure. This is in the manifest zone. So Karnath has a ton of, excuse me, sorry for the coughing. That's going to happen a little bit. So I don't want to push myself too hard today. So I think I'm going to stop talking so much, and I just want to get some. I have enough strength to do some art, so I'm going to do some art. I can do it on stream, so you are welcome to tag along with me if you're interested. This is a sinkhole. So I got to at least clear this plate, right? So Karnath is famous for its manifest zones to Mabar, the plane of undeath, darkness, and things that go bump in the night, basically. So different regions in the world of Eberron align with, or attune to, perhaps, is a better way of putting it, the different planes that are in orbit in a planar sense around the world of Eberron, and so Mabar is attuned to the region of Karnath. Hence, Karnath during the last war using so much undead in their effort to defeat enemies, because it's the resource that they have unique that no one else has access to, and it's a useful resource creating undead. So since there are manifest zones, which is just basically when one plane of reality intersects and interacts with another plane, in this instance the plane of Mabar with the world of Eberron, it creates these little these pockets of undead energy that makes it easy for Karnath necromancers to raise troops. So there's a ritual. There's an artifact that had been found that is attuned to the plane of Mabar, and with it there was a ritual that was also discovered, that if you use the artifact with the ritual, it would create an artificial manifest zone to Mabar, and if you perform the ritual long enough or well enough, it'll permanize it. So that's what's currently happening, and this permanizing of the manifest zone, creating basically a thin layer between both worlds, and as that continues to propagate with the ritual, the environment's basically being terraformed from Eberron into more of the plane of death. So all the terrain is basically rotting out and sluicing away and being replaced with these otherworldly plants and soils. And so this is a random encounter where the effects of the zone. Well, first off, this region that they're in is an abandoned military facility that's basically been forlorn and forgotten for furloughed, maybe is the right word, for hundreds of years at this point. And so it was reclaimed by the forest. But the necromancers that are performing the ritual, cultists from the Emerald Claw that at one point had high-ranking positions in the military, they were aware of this facility. So now that they've basically been decommissioned and kind of ran out as an unpopular cult, now that the war is over, they aren't needed. The power, prestige, and respect that they previously had earned in the military is now no longer available. So these people, these cultists, are having to develop less legal, more nefarious means of being able to maintain the status and lifestyle and power in Karrnath that they once had. So in this instance, these cultists have chosen to steal this artifact and the process of the ritual from Ader Academy, where it was being stored, and have gone off into the Carnwood to fuck around with it and find out. So since the soil, basically the bedrock is starting to collapse, all the soil is being terraformed, all the plant life is dead, all the animals have fled, and it is becoming an unnatural hellscape. And it's spilling out of the manifest zone into the Carnwood. There are foresters that do... technically, you really don't want to be running around in the Carnwood because it is rumored to be haunted. But there's so many refugees and displaced soldiers that are returning. And so many refugees from Sire that are sort of bleeding into Karrnath, that as long as whatever it is that you're doing, if you are establishing yourself on basically unclaimed territory and setting up farmland, no one's going to question who you are or why you're there, as long as you're bringing crops to market to help rebuild the population of Karrnath. So a bunch of new foundling villages over the past couple years of the last war being over, or like maybe 3 years in after the end of the war. So they're just starting. They built up a little bit of community in these areas, and where we're at right now is along the edge of the Carnwood to the south of it. And now these undead are spilling out of the Carnwood and threatening these towns. So they call on the county sheriff. We're having issues. Can you help us? It's like, well, you're not even supposed to be here, and I'm not supposed to really ask, so I can't do it in an official capacity. But I could hire on some adventurers to go check it out and give them some deputy badges. So if there is something wrong, they would be able to trigger the some legal authority through the badge to be able to ask questions and potentially host some violence upon anything that needs it. And depending on how well your team conducts themselves during the investigation and resolving the issue, they can find themselves permanently deputized and potentially becoming a law enforcement figure in this region. So your team could establish some domain and presence and building community. If you're into Dominion style play in Eberron, the Karrnath frontier is the perfect place to do it. It's such a great place because they're actively looking to settle the area and build stability. The biggest threat, other than the Carnwood and crazy undead cultist stuff, the other significant threat is halfling raiders in the Talenta Plains, eating their way into the grasslands of the southeast Karrnath. So that's where the county sheriff is investing most of his time currently, fighting halflings. So you, as unofficial capacity, you aren't regulators, so you aren't going in there to try to drive them out and reclaim that land for further homesteading. The further south you go in Karrnath, the closer you get to basically the Great Plains, where halflings ride dinosaurs in nomadic colonies, or nomadic tribes, and so they've gotten used to being able to migrate up into Karnath deep heartland, because there wasn't enough military power to drive them away. But now that the last wars ended, they are refocusing, maintain the military as well as mercenaries to go fight in those Great Plains against halfling Mongols. It's basically what it's like. It's like the Texas Rangers versus the Mongolian Horde is the kind of the scenario that's being set up in the South Karn. And that's just, I love that. That's so super fun. This used to be a how to put it, like a gazebo sort of rest area, but it was actually sitting on top of a mass grave. So this is the chamber where the mass grave is at, and this is 15 feet worth of soil and rock that were supposed to keep this now dilapidated monument over this hidden mass grave. So now that the soil, now that the terraforming in Mabar has come along so far, it is actively animating any dead that are within the manifest zone. So there could be any number of these sunken chambers, and they're all awakening and clawing their way to the surface and then rambling on throughout the forest, presumably towards villagers. So when the team finds it, this is just an optional encounter. It's just like an add-on if your team wants, like if your team likes combat and the DM wants to add additional combat encounters. This is basically like one of just the random optional encounters that can be added to the campaign if the DM wants to flesh out more content beyond what is already like default assumed. It's like, you like this? Here's some more stuff to deal with while you're messing around inside the manifest zone while you're figuring out the mysteries. That's the kind of intention of this. So I'm currently, we're using, these are 5-foot squares, these are 5-foot tiles. I'm using those tiles basically as blocks that were set in to, I mean, realistically, they'd probably be more like 1-foot tiles, right? Like a 1-foot tile like this. But that's too much detail. It's too much detail for just a simple combat map. I don't want to add in that level of complexity of having 1 square tiles. So instead, I'm settling for a general, since it's been hundreds of years, most of these tiles are either broken apart or grown over or mossed over or shattered. So I can just have remnant of them poking through here. So I'm in the process of laying down where the tiles were at and then basically breaking them up into little shapes so that they can be present on the map as a texture and still help define that 5-foot grid scale for combat. Because basically undead will crawl out of this hellhole and then run. The manifest zone is full of mist and fog, so like a low bank fog. It keeps any direct sunlight from being able to enter the area, primarily important, so that the undead, the unnatural plants, they can't survive in sunlight. So just the plane of darkness doesn't do well in sunlight, go figure. So everything in this manifest zone is stuck in a perpetual fog that diffuses sunlight before it gets to the surface, so it allows the plane to continue to thrive and expand. So it's just like this expanding bank of fog that slowly, it's like, I think it's 1.5 miles in radius right now, and it's just going, as it continues to grow, it could grow up to like a 10-mile, basically a 10-mile block is where it would end up at if it was allowed to fully manifest. And then it would become permanized, and any sort of undead or Ugoloths or other horrors could come out of the manifest zone and start camping in the Carnwood, and start eating everyone that's around and causing terror and all the bloody blah that goes along with extraplanar invasion. So, but to the cultists, it's like, yeah, this is all, we can harvest all this stuff, convert it into alchemical properties, and sell it for huge profit. Plus, it's creating a ready source of undead that we can potentially align or exploit on our own. But the problem is inside the manifest zone, undead that are created there are independent, like they're sentient. Like even just like creating, like animate skeletons, for example, is supposed to create mindless minions that'll follow you. But in the manifest zone, when you do that, they gain sentience and they resist you. So you constantly have to fight to maintain control over them, and if they break free, they'll kill you. So like that is super not working out. At least the ritual, the cultists that are performing the ritual, the undead kind of like intuitively understand what it is that they're trying to do, and it's just going to allow a greater form of evil to enter the world. So they're casual and okay with it. So they don't harass the Emerald Claw. They just leave the area and harass other unwitting, like less informed targets. So the undead that are in here, there's this thing called a living grave. It's one of the unique monsters we made for the adventure, and basically it's a gauntlet style undead spawning factory. It'll spit out ghouls and fast moving skeletons until the team delves down into the hole here and fights the living grave inside of its tiny little lair. If they can destroy the living grave creature, it's basically like an ooze that spits out undead. So if they can destroy that, it'll quell this area, and otherwise, if they ignore it, there's this thick fog, so you can only see like 40 feet away at most, and then everything gets obscured beyond that. But the undead aren't obscured. The fog doesn't block their senses at all. So all these living creatures are kind of bumbling blindly through this fog, and the undead can see them. Like, yeah, there's living things like 300 feet over there. They'll just come sprint up to you and start eating you. Meanwhile, you might hear them stomping through the sluck, but you won't actually have eyes on them until they're about 40 feet away. It's like, wow, they're really closing distance on us. They're going to be on us next round. What are we going to do? So, now in the playtesting, the familiars were used to scout out, but the thick fog just prevented them from being able to really use aerial recon to any kind of use at all, which is an environmental condition that we implemented, not only narratively to explain the advancing of the manifest zone into Eberron territory, but acted as a means of forcing the team into the mists and blindly feel about looking for things. So the only real reference points they have are tracks, because the soil gets all mushed up and turns into like this necrotic sludge effect, and it's raining constantly because it's the rainy season, of course. So there's these sludgy puddles and mud flats of this coffee ground like soil that's basically turning everything into like the ground is basically covered with necromancy coffee slur. And so it's you can track footprints easily through it while they remain. Anything that's more than a couple hours old, you're going to lose track of because the rainwater slushes it out. So you can see what's came through recently in an area, and it'll tell you which direction they went and where they came from, which gives the team plenty of reference point for them to find, hey, these look like fresh boots. They're heading that way. That means there's something organized that way. And we see undead going this way, and it looks like they clashed. It looks like a fight, and they ended up dragging off some of the living. And oh yeah, here's all the destroyed corpses. There you go. Neat. So like that's the stuff that the team can find, and then they can track through the sludge, the Emerald Claw group, where they're camped at, etc., etc. So the team can find targets by just investigating the ground and finding a line and then following it. But the mercenaries that the Emerald Claw hired to flesh out their troops, and knowing that there might be undead issues, have something to act as a meat shield between the Emerald Claw zealots themselves and the undead by using the mercenaries as a buffering expendable foot troop. foot soldier. So the mercenaries that are doing this are called Red Wolves. The Red Wolves get what's going on. They aren't happy about it, but they don't want to just leave because they're cultists. So if they bail on them and they succeed, if the cultists succeed and the Red Wolves bail on them, basically they're going to have the Emerald Claw as a whole hunting them, and that would just basically mean they're good as dead. So they can't bail on the mission of helping police and secure this area. So they're sitting here fighting undead while the cultists are creating undead that they can't control. So they're basically just trying to drive them away or get rid of them if they won't. And this is causing, again, more spill out into the farmland that's being developed by these refugee villagers, now being killed by these undead that are being driven out of the territory. So, neat little dynamic interactions there going. Plenty of opportunities for players to do heroic stuff if they're into heroics. To create authority for themselves in the environment. If they're looking at like if you're doing an ongoing campaign, establishing the characters as government supported authority figures in their territory allows you to bring adventure to the team. While they're, during downtime stuff, you can just create little side quests that basically get introduced into your territory once you establish your dominion in the area. So a lot of really, really fun opportunities there. This is just one of various, I like 5. I think it's 5 different random encounters like this that we have built out. But I am almost done. I only need to build out the tiles to the outer perimeter here. So I think this area here is starting to look really good. I just want to finish off this tile here like that. And like this will all just be open soil. And these are just flagstones that have been broken up. So I'm going to do that. I like how this is sitting here. I think I made the weight on the flagstones too heavy, though. There's a differential that I've been using. And there's different line weights that I've been using throughout this project. 4-point font is impassable terrain. 3-point is traversable surfaces. 2-point is detailed, and then 1 is like really fine detail. And I am not sticking to that as I'm going through this process here with these stones. I'm using some where am I at? 3-point font. So I should actually be using 2-point font for all these flagstones, except for in here. This should be 4-point. Or this should be 3-point in here. These should all be 4-point along the perimeter here. And I don't think I'm conforming to those, to that paradigm. So I'm probably going to want to stop and reassess and probably redraw all this stuff once I finish with the general shape of this. I'm breaking down all these tiles so we know where soil is and things are missing. I want to break this down a bit more to have the soil bleed in through into this area. And I can have another flagstone here like that. So you can't tell this structure from these flagstones, which means I'm not doing a good job with my visual language. The line weight is supposed to be resolving that, but I haven't stuck to my own rules of line weight. So I have to go back and fix that here in a few moments. Again, I just wanted to flesh that all out. I'm going to break this down here. Let's do that. Like that. That feels pretty good. That up there. There, like that. This should all be 3 along the this margin here, dropping into the darkness, and then the rest of these tiles here that are fleshing out that space 2, and then everything else outside of that should be 1 pixel, I believe. So, no, it should be 2, 3 on the interior, and then the rest of them should be 2. So, what I need to do then is rebuild this. Excuse me. Still getting over being sick, so I'm not streaming a lot today. I'll go probably for... I'm going to go for another 20 minutes this morning, and then I'm going to stop. But I'll be back on tonight, probably for at least an hour. So we want to go to 3 pixels along the interior here. I stream 10 when I'm in full health. I stream 10 times per week, Monday through Friday in the mornings like this, typically for anywhere from 2 hours to 90 minutes. I'm blessed to have a corporate office job that allows me to work from home, so I log out and do my day job. On Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, typically, I will take a lunch break and log on and do some game development ideas. There's a couple of different projects that I'm slowly cooking during the week. Martial Powers, the War Golem fantasy mecha supplement as well, and the Color Mana Spell Point variant rule system that I published on DMsGuild a few years ago. That's something that I continue to develop and flesh out as well. And we're on 3 pixels, good. So a couple of different projects I can work on typically will work on during the week. Yeah, there's that. That doesn't need to be there. Good. And it's lunchtime. So typically I at most, it's anywhere from an hour to 90 minutes at most. And then, unless, I have the day off, in which case, woo! But, and then, Mondays, like tonight, and Thursdays, often, I will stream whatever else it is that I'm currently working on. Currently, I'm working on a Spelljammer optional encounter for the Lada Zaraxis adventure that when I built the Spelljammer supplement that I published in March. There's a link to it down below. It was a bunch of alternate mechanics for airships, spell casting, wild space, astral sea, ship combat, squadron, fleet combat, a lot of different options there, and we used Lada Zaraxis to showcase how these mechanics work. And so now that that book is published, we're adding more content to it. So you can watch the development of that stuff on Mondays, including tonight and Thursday. But again, I'm still sick, so I'll probably have limited capacity. I am happy to do it. I love the work. I love painting. I've been a DM. I'm a forever DM since 1987. I was barely able to get any kids in my neighborhood interested in playing, so that immediately kind of set me in the DM seat, trying to figure out how to because there wasn't a YouTube back in the 80s, so it was like you gotta kind of figure out what the document's trying to say and run it by ear, because I didn't have a mentor. So I was just my parents just got me some books, so I'm like, okay, I guess we'll figure out how to do this, and I fell in love with it immediately, so I was up for the challenge. But that got me into artwork, it got me into cartography, that got me into the CAD design classes in school. I ultimately didn't go into architecture, but I was looking at it for a while. But all these skills are transferable to becoming a better DM. So that's how I applied them. Just doing some cleanup. Nothing too intense today for me. So once we finish redoing these flagstones, we'll be able to go back and you can see all this pockmark stuff that's out here. That's all terraformed flora and ground grit. So we'll have a lot of fun. Basically fleshing that junk out, which we will probably get to tomorrow. Once I finish these flagstones, I'm going to go ahead and log out for the day and recuperate a little bit before I go attack my day job again. I was out most last week. Pneumonia is no joke. That stuff just messes you up. It sticks around forever, so I'm going to be coughing for a while. On stream, which sucks. I stayed offline for the whole week last week to just give myself some good recuperation time without any stress. But I'm well enough at this point that I can be active again as long as I pace myself a little bit. So this is me attempting to pace myself a little bit. Hey guys, come pace with me. On the black and white, so we have color versions and black and white versions of these maps. And so the black and white versions, I want to make the line weight that we use is actually pretty important, because without any color information, you have to be able to distinguish one object from another, whether it's just decoration or does it have structural meaning, like your hitboxes in a first-person shooter arena. You have to know what are walls that are that you can't shoot through, can't climb. What are surfaces that you can traverse, doors that can open. You have to have specific language in your icons on your map so that it reads cleanly. So we provide color maps inside the adventure, and as well as in a zip file for PDF, for virtual tabletop usage. But the DM, if they're playing live at a table and they don't want to destroy cartridges of color ink, kicking out a 50-inch map, because there's various maps anywhere from like this is like, what is this, 1 2 3 4, this is a 10 by 10 space, this is it fills a 10 by 10 space, and this is like a 15 by 10 space. If that were to be colored and put up and printed out, that's already eating up a lot of ink. But the largest map, the final dungeon, is 75 inches in size. So I mean, that is a really big map, and it would cost a fortune to print it out as a color poster, for instance. So we offer the broken up color maps, the broken up black and white maps. Broken into spaces so that it's easier for you to print and use these things. My coffee just shaked at me, so I need to take a sip. And that's my water. My ice water. Sometimes the ice shifts. You hear it kind of rattle. It's like, this has been sitting long enough that the ice has melted, causing it to rotate, making that little rattle sound. But my coffee over here on my hot pad. Ice and fire. Burf. There we go. Line it right up, perfect. The pixels, the grid that we made, it's 100 pixels per square. And there's a 1 pixel border on each square. So when you line them up together, it's 2 pixels. And so when you're using virtual tabletop like Roll20, its native resolution is 70 pixels per square. So when you take a map like this and you drop it into Roll20, it'll automatically recalibrate it so it's 70 pixels. They use vector lines for their grid. And so those grids are about a pixel or so wide. So when this drops from 100 DPI to 70 DPI to fit on the virtual tabletop, these 2 pixel wide lines become less than 2 pixels, but not quite only 1 pixel, like 1.7 pixels, right? Or like 1.3 pixels. That line that happens to line up perfectly with the vector grid that's in virtual tabletop. So hint to those that are trying to build cartography for virtual tabletops on Roll20. I always recommend 100 DPI because it makes the virtual tabletop vectors for the grid just automatically snap to. It's absolutely perfect and easy to use. Excuse me. I have to keep it simple. It's just a line. It's just a simple line. Just draw the line. The line weight defines its role in the language of the map. So I can't double down or thicken or further define the weight of the line in this example beyond just its 2 pixels. Otherwise, it's going to misrepresent what it's supposed to be. And 2 pixels doesn't sound like a lot, but the eye's pretty smart. It picks up on this stuff. See, you can see the difference in line weight. It's obvious. It's obvious. These tiles are thinner and less significant than these structural frames. So it's doing the job it's supposed to. So you can see the difference in line weight here over these tiles. These tiles are descriptive. These are mechanical. These have like actual presence significance. Let me clean that up a bit. That, make this simpler. There. These aren't sealed. These looser. This area over here is disrupted, so these aren't loose. Like these aren't tightly packed. There's looseness between each stone. So that's what I'm attempting to express here. Better. Alright, back to it. Enough gawking. Let's get in here and do that. So yeah, I put in anywhere from... Boy, what? Anywhere from, I guess... maybe 15, anywhere from like 10 to 20 hours a week into artwork on stream. And then I have off-stream work that I do, which is like writing books, editing, page layouts, stuff that's less glamorous than painting. The nice thing about painting is that when I'm doing easy, like when I'm not doing like hard architecture or like design work, I can basically turn off my brain and kind of just talk about whatever comes to mind while I'm pushing pixels around the page like this. So it's pretty meditative for me to do this, and I need to. I originally started doing stream because I had a project that needed 60 illustrations and I was intimidated. So I figured, well, as long as I keep showing up every day and stream the progress, then I can keep pushing through the project and get it done. Show progress every day. That was the original goal. So far, so good. I've only got a few minutes left this morning. So, I'll be wrapping up here in a few minutes. And this one's shifting off square specifically to slide that way. Let's see. Error in my actions here. like that, and like that. Bring this down here. There. Like that. Here like that. I crumbled this in here like that. You're right. Here. Broken flagstone inside there. Here. Almost done. God, how much time do I have left? Oof. Last minute. Just a couple more remnant pieces left, and then I get the bail. Up. This in here like that. Tiles sits here like that. Here. Let's do like that. There we go. Not bad. All right, so we completed that. Oops. Missed this here. Nice. So when we come back next time, we have our grid in. We can then go back and start adding in all the exterior bits outside of this spot. Just start adding in a bunch of flora and stuff. So that's it for now. I'll be back in about probably in 12 hours. I'll be on for a little while doing some Spelljammer ship design work. I hope you all have a great day. Thanks for being here. Like, subscribe, blah, whatever. See you on the other side.